Golden State Warriors set to face the San Antonio Spurs.
Don't ask me that again.
What's that, Greg?
I just said
don't ask me. I see what you're saying. You're imitating KD. I thought you were saying don't ask you another question. I'm like, that's what I'm going to be doing the entire night, my friend. But if your KD was here, he'd be like, we can't have a show, Chris, because you can't be asking me random questions. I feel you, GA. I feel you. The two-time defending champs having some issues right now. We get to see them try and get a much-needed win right here on NBA TV. Spurs, Warriors on deck. Welcome to the Auto Trader pregame show. The stars of the show, they're to my left. Candace Parker, Greg Anthony, you know who they are. But let's take a look at the tumultuous week the Warriors just had. Monday was the night that Kevin Durant, Draymond Green got into an altercation following a loss to the Clippers. Then on Tuesday, the Warriors beat Atlanta while Draymond served his suspension for that altercation. Thursday, Draymond played but scored 0 points in 24 minutes in a blowout loss to Houston.
He got a bad toe.
Well, last night, Draymond with that bad toe sat out. And Klay Thompson missed a possible game-tying shot at the end of regulation against Dallas. That marked the third loss in a week. After their latest defeat, the Warriors discussed the challenges of getting past a tough stretch.
Yeah, he's trying to move forward. I mean, we're going to talk about this the whole year. We just want to play ball. I know that's all I want to do.
We just stopped feeling sorry for ourselves. You know, I thought the last couple of games everybody was down and we were a little bit out. And then I thought somewhere maybe early second quarter, maybe it was late first, I can't remember. It was early second. You know, we had given up 3 offensive boards by not boxing out, and I challenged our guys to bring the level of competition up, and they responded. When we started boxing out, we started taking care of the ball, and we really played with some force. And I think you know, this past week has been a good reminder just how hard you have to play in this league to win. And I thought we played extremely hard tonight and played very well, just not quite well enough.
At the end of the day, nothing should distract us from what our goal is. I think guys have attempted and are going to continue to get to a place where we can continue to move forward and get back to who we are as a team. And honestly, once we get over these injuries, we'll be able to show what we're about as a team and do it together. So I'm extremely proud of the way we handled this last week, because there's an opportunity really to implode and crumble, but that's not going to happen.
We get it. The Warriors have lost 4 of their last 6. As you just saw, that 2-time MVP. They're missing him, Steph Curry, and Defensive Player of the Year, Draymond Green / perennial All-NBA defensive team. I mean, perennial guy, 3 times in his career. Are there struggles as simple as they're just missing those 2 caliber players?
I think that their struggles are a culmination of a lot of things.
Okay.
You know, I think it's the schedule. I think it is within the team. And also you're missing Steph Curry, the most dynamic point guard in this league, one of the most dynamic players. You're missing that in pace. And then also defensively. If you look at the points allowed in their last 4 or 5 games, it's been 112 points. I mean, that can't be explained by shooting woes. So I think there's a combination of a lot of different things, but they cannot deny that within the team, their argument, Draymond and Durant, hasn't affected them.
I think Candace hit it on the head. The thing that gets lost in this is because of the brilliance that this group has displayed over the last 4 years, you tend to take it for granted and assume that they can just continue, and you forget that they're human, and there's a level of stress and anxiety that comes when you are in the war and, you know, in the trenches with a group this long, where it's this intense, where there's this much focus. You know, it can wear on you, and it's really hard to sustain that level. That's why most dynasties end up, after a while, when it goes quick. And this could ultimately be their last run. I think that's what Steph's saying. Like, you know, as bad as we think it's been, it probably for them, it hasn't been as bad. They've had a lot of stuff happen over the course of the last 4 years in that locker room that doesn't always get talked about. That kind of gets glossed over because they continue to have success. But now you do have the pending free agency of Kevin Durant. And with this altercation, it's not just that they had the altercation, it's that was the focal point of the conversation. Talking about another player's free agency, that's a little unique because generally you don't go that route. You know, you don't ever really discuss what's going to happen after the season. The focus tends to be on, hey, the here and the now. And I think that's what Steph was trying to talk about. And it's going to be listen, Steve Kerr said, you know what, we're a little fractured in terms of our spirit and as well, not just on the court. So there are issues there that they're going to have to work hard to get through. And it's going to be a challenge, again, just because of what they've been going through the last 4 years.
I mean, they always get the benefit of the doubt, right? When you win 3 championships in 4 years, you're like, okay, if you lost 4 out of 6, if you say you're okay, then we believe you. But where there's smoke, there's fire, right?
I mean, the expectations that we've had over the years for this team, as GA said earlier, but the culture that they've built. You haven't seen any of this come out, and you have the face in Steph Curry, who's a great guy, who has really built this culture of selfless, of play for each other, of brotherhood. And so to see something like this come out, I mean, it's damaging whether they admit it or not.
Well, a guy we haven't mentioned, and that's what happens with Golden State, right? You go Steph, then you mention KD, or you mention Draymond. Klay Thompson not playing like himself this season. Outside of that, 14 three-pointers against Chicago. If you take a look at guys around the league that have hit more threes than Klay this season, Bucks center Brook Lopez, Justin Holiday in Chicago, Joe Harris in Brooklyn, Danny Green in Toronto, these guys are hitting more threes than Klay this year. Does he seem out of sorts? And he didn't seem very concerned with the way he's playing, but there is cause for concern when you look at the numbers.
Yeah, I think what you just said, I don't think he's concerned, but I think because of how the teams function, it's become a concern because he could have stretches in the past where maybe he didn't play as well, but they had so much more depth, and that's something else that gets lost here. This team doesn't have the depth and the experience outside of those guys that they've had in years past. You know, they're reliant this year far more on unproven young talents. And so, again, that just adds another level to it. But listen, they're still the defending world champs, 2-time. They still have a level of trust within their locker room and a belief that they can get it done. But we have to let this thing play out.
Well, obviously the shooting woes have continued, but we know what Klay is capable of. Mm-hmm. He's capable of knocking down 14 three-pointers in an NBA game and getting out of that shooting slump. But I think he has been affected because if he's not scoring within the offense, he's not going to get assists. I mean, he's not going to dribble that much, so he's not creating for others. And with Steph Curry as well as Draymond missing time with injury, I mean, I think those type of attempts for him has affected his shooting percentage and the quality of shots that Klay's getting. But, I mean, I read earlier, Klay's going to go home, watch his shooting performances that he's had where, for instance, 41 against OKC and, you know, big game against Houston as well. And he's not going to get frustrated. But it has to, mentally, it does affect you.
And real quick, don't forget, Draymond's having his worst year in this championship stretch. I mean, he is not having the kind of year we've seen in the past either. So they've got a couple guys that aren't playing up to par.